Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Sports Talk with Broads. And in this city, at the moment, there are a ton of athletes between the four major teams. And there's a lot of athletes that people relate to, that they enjoy, that they love watching their blood, sweat, and tears every single time they touch the ice, court, or field, or diamond. But also, there's frustrating athletes. Athletes that you look at that should be great, but they're just good. Or can be elite, but something's holding them back. Or they showed promise in one or two seasons, but ever since those seasons, they haven't been able to live up to that hype. And we will discuss all of those players today and come up with my top 5. We will break it down per team: Sixers, Eagles, Flyers, and Phillies. And it's crazy when you're writing these down and you're thinking about them. There's a lot on the list, and that's a bad thing, right? There's a lot on the list, and that's a bad thing. But guess what? You can do this for all these cities, really. It's not just a Philadelphia problem. Like, look at all these athletes that really get people upset. You can do this for every city, for all their teams, and you will find people, no doubt about it. But it's just really interesting to see how many could possibly be on the list. Some might be questionable. Others are no-brainers, right? So we'll dive into it. Before we hop into things, though, this episode of Sports Talk with Broads is sponsored by Orbit Energy and Power. With over 20 years of experience in the solar industry, they are home to your solar experts. Their solar program helps eliminate your electric bill completely. They offer flexible financing solutions such as $0 down. In addition, they will make sure you receive all the state and federal incentives available for switching to solar. They also provide water purification systems, tree removals, backup energy services, battery storage, and more. So visit them online. Their information is in the description. I think we should start with the Philadelphia 76ers. I'll run through the list, and then I'll tell you my top 5 that I come up with. Ben Simmons, to me, is obviously insanely frustrating. And he's so damn good. He's so damn good. Look what he does right now. Jump shot this, jump shot that. I'm for that conversation, no doubt about it. He destroys the league as we speak. Not to a LeBron James level. Not yet, at least. Not to a Kevin Durant level. But to an all-star level. He's a tough matchup. Teams game plan for him. He can totally take over games and dominate the flow of things. But let's be realistic. He could be elite. He could be at the top of the league. He has that type of body structure, that type of basketball IQ. The ability to pass the ball is just unreal. Don't even get me started on defending. You know me. I mean, you want to talk about defense. I think he's the best defender in the league when it comes to versatility. It always seems to go to the guys who are big-time rim protectors because of the block shots and what they do. But in terms of 1 through 5, he is so up there, and I think that he's actually number 1. So when it comes to defense, holy hell. But the glaring hole in his game is the difference between being an all-star and being a superstar. Being an all-star and being a guy who can take over franchises and bring them to title runs. I truly believe that. So with that being said, yeah, Ben Simmons is frustrating. That's not to take away from what he does, because what he does, I admire. There's a lot of fans out there that say, get this guy out of here. Get him the hell out of here, because he's never going to shoot a jump shot. And I'm not with that mindset. I can appreciate everything he does, which is essentially all A+, really. Passing, A+. Rolling to the basket, which we're going to see more, A+. Defense, A+. It's unbelievable. Frustrating, though, because come on now. Shoot a jump shot. And in a vacuum, let's have the conversation. How can we be talking about an NBA player who doesn't shoot a basketball, right? So frustrating Ben Simmons, no doubt. Al Horford. Yeah, you think he's frustrating? Yup. But with Al Horford, it almost seems like there's an excuse. I don't think he's just washed up. I don't think he went from what he was in Boston to here in Philly, and he just stinks because of age, and he forgot how to play basketball and things like that. His confidence is shot, absolutely, and that plays a role, because when your confidence is not there, you're not really able to execute like you would have if you're feeling great about yourself. But we all talk about how, now, hindsight, how the hell is this going to work? With a guy like Ben Simmons who doesn't shoot, with Joel Embiid, it sort of makes sense that it doesn't work here because the spacing is all out of whack based off of what we have seen to this point. Now, will Brett Brown's new philosophy change things? Maybe. Will Shake Milton being out on the floor change things and then he becomes a solidified veteran role player that gives you mid-20 minutes per game in the postseason? We will see. But is that underwhelming? Is that frustrating to pay a man that much money to be your backup off the bench who's going to give you 25 minutes a night? To be fair, though, guess what? Those 25 minutes are important. Hell, the 10 minutes that Joel Embiid isn't going to be on the floor is important, and that's if it's only 10 minutes. I know Brett has been saying, I want to get Joel Embiid out there for 38 minutes, but who knows if he's going to really be able to handle something like that. Could be 35, and then that's more minutes for Al Horford in the 5 spot. I still sense he's going to get about mid-20s when it comes to minutes in the playoffs. But yes, Al Horford, totally insanely frustrating. Tobias? I don't get the Tobias slander, but I know people feel that way. Look at the contract. I can't believe he's got paid max player money, even though he's not a max player. He's your third option. He's giving you 20 points per game. Sure, there are times where I think he needs to make his shots and execute. Yup. I can criticize a player for maybe having a bad game or a bad stretch, but still not ultimately think that he's your awful player on the team and he's a bad third option. He's a great third option. Tobias Harris is a third option, no doubt. People get upset that he doesn't have that dog, that he doesn't take over. Well, he never had that. You should have known that before. Never had that. That's why you have Ben. That's why you have Joel. They're supposed to be those guys. Tobias as your third option? Hell yeah. The reason why this team is in trouble when it comes to finances isn't really Tobias Harris's contract. It's Al Horford's. You get rid of Al Horford's contract and you're in a totally different ballgame, and then that Tobias Harris contract situation, it somewhat goes out the window. But there are plenty of fans really upset with Tobias Harris. And with Joel Embiid, oh yeah, that happens too. Whether it's because of injuries, which isn't really his fault. Whether it's the conditioning, which you can argue is his fault. Whether it's he shoots too many threes, which people then will relate to Brett Brown, although it's just really the nature of how the game is played these days. You know, everyone who hates how much Joel Embiid's camped out by the perimeter, they bring up Jokic's game, right? Oh, look at Jokic. Yeah, you don't think he shoots threes? Come on. Come on. That's my favorite. People who get upset with certain things that are happening here, yet in the big scheme of things, when you take a look around the league, you got to see how it relates to everything else. Big men shoot threes. Look at what the Milwaukee Bucks do. You think they're big men shoot threes? Yep. Now, they might not have the same skill set as Joel Embiid does down low, but then I'll argue the fact that, well, look, he leads the league in post-ups. But I digress. I think those are your list of 4 players for the 76ers that you can argue are frustrating this year. And here's the scary part. That's 4 of your 5 starters coming into the season. Al Horford seems to be committed to the bench at this point, which is great. But going into the season and for a majority of the year, those are your 4 of your 5 starters. And it makes sense, right? Because this has been a frustrating year. They have underachieved. But wow, that's not a good sight. Not a good sight at all. Let's move to, you want to go Eagles? We'll go Eagles. Initially, I went Carson Wentz just instantly because for some reason there are people out there that don't believe in it. I'll say this. To me, he's frustrating in terms of I think that there are opportunities that he leaves out on the field. But ultimately, I believe in the guy. Ultimately, I think he is the guy. I see the skill set. When it comes to his skill, based off of the skill of other quarterbacks in the league, it's at the top of the league. It is up there. Now, I'm not telling you it's top 5, But if you look at pure skill level, I think it is up there in terms of the top. Of course, you have, and now it's so weird to have this conversation because of age, but of course, there's the Tom Brady's, the Drew Brees, the Pat Mahomes of the world. But I've been here before. He's in the top of the good and at the bottom of the great right now. There's some things that I think if he cleans up, he'll be something super special. But the skill level is there. What he needs to clean up isn't so much about like the raw natural skill. It's more of the fundamentals of it. The footwork. The missing the easy throws. The layups, as Greg Cosell called it on the Inside the Birds podcast. Can't be missing the layups. Those things. He cleans that up and he elevates. He moves up on that list. And keep in mind, it also matters how you view the word great, how you view the word elite, how you view the word good. Being like first on the list in good or at the bottom of the great right now, I don't think that's a bad position to be. I put him in the same categories as the Deshaun Watsons, the Lamar Jacksons, in that conversation. But people are frustrated with Carson, and I think it's fair to be at times. You miss a Miles Sanders wide open down the sideline. You could be frustrated. You miss some little plays. How about this? Fumbling the football at times. Yup. Those are the type of things that frustrate me. But I do know that big picture. If he can stay healthy, and that is a big if, that his raw, natural skill, which you can't teach to everybody, I know it's in there. And that's huge, and that's big. Derek Barnett. I don't know what to think of this guy anymore. Reggie White record, going back to college, that was the big spark. I think he's just average. Now, he's been battling through injuries, but ultimately, I just feel as if Derek Barnett is average. He gets sacked sometimes, sure. This is a big year for him. Huge year. Hey, how about this, though? Stupid penalties. Dumb at times. Late hits. I mean, what are you doing out there? You got to play smart. And I think that it's not even on the line. Sometimes you get players that play on the edge, and it's barely going over the line, but you take it sometimes because he makes so many great plays. For me, when it comes to him, it's not really that player that you can live with being on the edge. He's not good enough for that, in my opinion. It's just dumb football. It's stupid football at times, and that bothers me. I'm underwhelmed and frustrated with Derek Barnett. Absolutely. I don't know what they're going to do with him. I don't know what the plans are. This season, this upcoming season, is going to be large for this individual and for his future with the Eagles. Do I think he can be a player in the league in terms of like staying in the league? Yeah, I think he can stay in the league. But we picked him in the first round. And where you pick these players in terms of frustrating or not, it matters. The value of the pick, it matters when it comes to expectations and why you're pissed off with a certain player. If Ben Simmons was picked in the second round with the 23rd pick in that round, guess what? The frustration's not as high because the expectations going into things wasn't he was the prince. So with Derek Barnett, after seeing his stats in college and what he did at Tennessee and coming in here, and sure, sacks are there at times, but not special enough. I give him just average. I think he's an average defensive end, and I need more out of that. Sidney Jones. Where do I begin with Sidney Jones? What you saw at Washington was really good. You knew that Howie Roseman was taking a shot in the dark once the injury kind of happened. Like, hey, you got him in the second round. What a steal. If he's healthy, the kid can play. But he hasn't really. Now, over the last season, there were a couple plays where he made it happen, right? He got thrown in there. There was that story that Jim Schwartz was looking for Craig James or somebody else, and Sidney Jones went in there and he made the play. Like, there were a couple times where he made that play. But underwhelming is almost an understatement with Sidney Jones. The confidence. I talked about Al Horford's confidence. Sidney Jones' confidence is just all out of whack, and it has not helped him a lick. What you thought you were going to get from a healthy Sidney Jones, it couldn't be farther from what has been on the field. Hamstring here, hamstring there, limping away. Oh, you got torched? Oh, you got beat by a double move. Here comes the hammy hold, and he limps off to the sidelines. Is it because he's actually hurt? Is it because he's got to make it seem like there was a reason why he got absolutely torched by a wide receiver? I don't know. But there's no denying that when you see him, you see his name, you cringe a little. You cringe. Is Jalen Mills frustrating? The difference with Jalen Mills is this. One, where he was drafted, which was the 7th round, so the expectations were different. But I don't know if... Let's put it this way. When he gets beat on the double moves, is it frustrating? I would have to agree. But I think all-around production, at this point, I don't know if he compares to the other guys. Like, I think you can make a case for when he does get beat on the double move for the 2000th time that you really think, are you serious? And it makes you lose your mind a bit. But in terms of where you drafted Derek Barnett and his production through the first couple seasons, Sidney Jones and what you got out of that, I look at Jalen Mills and I go, okay, you know what? He was drafted in the 7th round. I didn't even expect him to be this type of starter and even produce to the level that he did at this point. For as many times as he does get beat, there are times where he makes stellar plays as well. And I like his energy. I like his passion for the game, that dog mentality that he does have to an extent. Now, it's not a Malcolm Jenkins level, although he's coming out being very vocal about taking over that safety position and wanting to be in a role like that, and only time will tell if he is. But I do like the mentality. I talked about the confidence with Sidney Jones. It's almost the opposite with Jalen Mills. Jalen Mills will get torched by a double move, and guess what? The next play, he's all up in that grill, and he's giving him one of these. You know, he's getting all excited and juiced up, and some people might look at that and go, well, shut the hell up. You just got absolutely waxed. But I think of it as a reset. You need that as a corner. Guess what? You're going to get totally torched over and over again in this league if you aren't some superstar cornerback player. And even if you are one of those players, you still are going to get destroyed at times, and you need to have that refresh. It might bother me a bit when he does the old wave, like, no, you didn't catch it after he got beat, and the only reason why it wasn't caught was because maybe it was a bad throw or because the wide receiver dropped it, but you need that. If you don't have that, I feel like I'm more concerned than if you have it. I can't put Mills on that level. And Dillard, I don't know if he's played enough. If we had this conversation maybe after next season, things can change. I'm so skeptical on this Dillard thing because I saw things I liked. I saw some things I didn't like. There's going to be growing pains going into it. You don't go from a Hall of Fame type level left tackle, throw in Andre Dillard and think everything's just going to be smooth with the snap of the fingers. There's going to be times where he's going to get beat. But you should know that heading into things. He's going to have to learn. He's going to have to get beat. So then he can make that adjustment. He can watch the film. He says, okay, this is what he did this time. This is how you stop that. You need that. You do. I don't think enough time has been in Dillard to kind of have this conversation of he is going to be, or is right now at least, a frustrating player for the Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia Phillies. I feel like we've been having this conversation for a long damn time with the first two I put on the list for the Phillies. Nick Pavetta, Vinny V. And here we go again. Here's the conversation again. But I'm not going to lie to you. There's a little bit of intrigue with this Vinny V cutter that's being discussed during these inter-squad games. And I'm going to have a Phillies podcast out pretty soon because they are starting to play games. There's a couple storylines surrounding Spencer Howard, Alec Boehm, JT Realmuto, Bryce Harper. So in the near future, I will have a Phillies podcast up kind of breaking down the expectations and some things going on with the Phillies. But in terms of players who annoy the hell out of me, it's Nick Pavetta and Vinny V every year. And I'm sick and tired of making this statement right here. They have the stuff, but they can't put it together. They have the stuff. I swear to you, that comment has come out of my mouth 6 billion times. Stop. I don't want to keep saying it. They annoy me. Nick Pavetta, he does have a skill set. He can't put the skill set together, and it's a shame. I didn't even know this But Mike Gill was telling me before last season he was a dark horse to win the Cy Young. The Cy Young, really, Nick Pivetta? You got to be kidding me. That makes me want to throw up in my mouth. He should never be in the conversation of Cy Young. But the fact that legit MLB writers believe that that was the case before last year just shows you what type of skill set he does have, or at least has the ability to put out there. But he can't do it. And then he whines, and then he cries, and then he gets upset, and he pouts. And then they'll give you an outing where it's like, whoa, okay, do we have something here? And then that's followed by 2 bad outings. And then you get that one outing that sucks you back in again. And it's a constant theme that we've been doing year after year after year. And it's very similar to Vince Velasquez. Very similar to Vince Velasquez. It's the same thing. Year after year after year. Honestly, though, remember when he had 16 strikeouts, by the way? Ew, that was absolutely filthy, and I thought we had something there, and then time proved me wrong. The command's off. But I do feel I have more hope in the Vinny V than I do Nick Pivetta at this point. And that's kind of telling you something. Vinny V has that fastball that's insane. Over and over and over again, though, here we go with these two, battling for the 5th spot. I'm kind of sick and tired by it. And I'll throw in another person that could be in this conversation that's in the starting rotation. Jake Arrieta. Are you bothered by his personality? I know a lot of fans really dislike his personality. He thinks he's this tough guy, and, he has this, jerk kind of mentality at times. And maybe because he did what he did in Chicago when he was dominant, he feels like, hey, I have the right to be that way. I'm allowed to be that way because if you look at my past, I was something special in this league. But guess what? Here in Philly, it hasn't related. And I will say, when he's healthy, it hasn't been that bad. When he's been hurt, it's been a struggle. Problem is, been hurt a lot. So that struggle has happened a lot when we talk about what he has done in the Phillies uniform. But I'm not going to go as far as hate the face, but there are times where I'm thinking to myself, yo, dude, who are you? You can be a different type of leader when you back it up. But if you don't back it up, how much do you have, right? I mean, do people look at you differently if you have a 6 ERA and you're trying to tell me what to do? Or you're trying to settle the clubhouse and you have a 6 ERA? Now, I think some leaders can get away with that. For example, let's just throw out a crazy scenario. CC Sabathia with the New York Yankees. When he was on his last year, and he's been in that organization for a long time, and he's had success in the league for a long time, if he was trying to keep that clubhouse together during his last year and his ERA was maybe 6 something, once again, this is a hypothetical. I think that his message, his voice, there's value in that still. But that's not the same as Jake Arrieta. He's been here for a short amount of time. He hasn't really been great at all here. And what he did was in Chicago. So his voice, I think, travels differently throughout the clubhouse. Rhys Hoskins. Ooh! I am so down on him. I don't know why, but there is something in my gut that tells me he ain't it. He's not it. Not good at defending. And then at the plate, lost isn't even the word to describe how poor it is. Lost is not the word. I mean, he is so mentally all over the place. He's overthinking things. He's changing up his batting stance. That's got him thinking even more. And you're hearing all this noise right now with this team. And with him, you kind of got nothing. Nothing at all. And that concerns me. Roman Quinn? Injuries? The thing is, I don't know how high people are with Roman Quinn. He has shown splashes, and there was a run last year where it was like, oh my Lord, was that Roman Quinn? And the speed is game-changing. But I don't know if the hype for Roman Quinn to be something serious is there enough for him to really frustrate people. But that run is enough of a spark to kind of get at least some more interest out of his game. His speed is game-changing. If he is healthy, I sense you got to have him out there on the field because it's that lethal. And what he can do in center field and how much ground he can cover is unbelievable. Not that Adam Hazley can't play good defense, but there's no doubt that Roman Quinn's speed is just another element, and it's a way higher degree than what Adam Hazley can do defensively. I don't know, though, if there's enough juice surrounding Roman Quinn. There should be more than there is, in my opinion, but I just don't sense that it's there. Aaron Nola, he's had too many promising starts for me to really crush him that much. And let's flip over to the Flyers before I give you my 5. I hate saying this, the strip the C crowd when it comes to Claude Giroux. Look, I don't understand that slander at all. People who aren't diehard hockey fans associate other sports to the NHL and the Flyers and think Claude Giroux is equivalent to a Ben Simmons, therefore Claude Giroux has to carry a team to the cup. I hate to break it to you, not how it works in hockey. Not only that, when you have 8 goaltenders in 1 year like they did a season or 2 ago, that is embarrassing, it's disappointing, and you flat out can't win when you have that many goalies. Dave Haxtell wasn't the right coach. Their team didn't have much talent. So to look at Claude Giroux and say, you haven't led us anywhere, you got to dive deeper than that. You got to have a goaltender. And now they do. And look what's happened. They also added to the D-core. They also added some depth up front, and players have stepped up. There's a reason for that. And now the team is playing well. Is Claude Giroux a sniper? Nope, not a sniper. Good playmaker and a point producer. He was in the conversation of MVP pretty recent. He gives you a ton of points each year. I just can't comprehend the Giroux slander. I know why they do it, but I can't comprehend it. They do it because they associate leaders and other sports teams with hockey, and it doesn't work. There's a few that it does. Is he a Sidney Crosby? No, he's not a Sidney Crosby. Is he a McDavid? Nope. And guess what? McDavid hasn't really brought anyone to Stanley Cups yet. I know that there's a lot of time. That's how hard it really is. It's just way more of a team game than any other. You're a third liner. You're needing so much out of your entire team. Think about how much your first line players play compared to how much is actually in a game. 20 plus minutes. That's one period, right? Little more than one period. Yeah. It's a 60-minute game. So think about how much time other players are on the ice as well. So much time. Nolan Patrick. Going through the migraine problem. The only thing I'll say with why I don't know if Nolan Patrick is extremely high on my list is because going into that NHL draft, you knew that it was such a weak draft. You had no expectations for these guys, really. They didn't have the Austin Matthews, the Connor McDavids, the Patrick Laines. You didn't really have that buzz surrounding these players. So while you did sneak up and snag the second overall pick, you knew Nolan Patrick was an okay player, but you didn't have that, wow, this kid's going to be a game changer. You got the second overall pick. You're going to land whoever the Devils don't pick. They ended up picking Nico Hischier, who, not a bad player, not a superstar generational player either. So I just feel like going into it, I kind of got what I thought I would get out of him when he was healthy, which is a nice player. He can play in this league. He can totally add depth to your team. He knows what he's doing out there, and he's super young. He's got time to even grow more and turn into something even better than he already is. If you think about it, for him to play as well as he's playing right now at his age, I'm intrigued to see if he can get even better at it. But ultimately, I feel like this is what you're going to get in terms of point production and play with this style. That's fine. I'm okay with it. I don't know if I'm frustrated with him because I kind of knew what he was. But if you don't study these prospects, if you don't know who these players really are, which a lot of people don't, and I totally understand that when it comes to the NHL draft, there's a lot of players overseas, Russians, Swedens, right? People from Finland. all over the place. And they play junior hockey, and you don't know where they're playing in Canada. Or they're playing college hockey, who most fans don't follow. I get it, you don't know the prospect, so you associate the number 2 pick with someone who's going to be stellar, but he wasn't really that. He wasn't. It was a super weak draft, really bad draft, to be honest with you, when it comes to the top. Although, who came out on top there that was unbelievable? Pedersen from Vancouver. Nice pick, no doubt about it. He's something special. He went later. Ghost. Shane Gostisbehere is the Rhys Hoskins. He's the hockey version of the Rhys Hoskins. He had an unbelievable first season where you thought to yourself, if this kid can do this, wow, oh wow, oh wow. And sadly, he lost it. He's abysmal in the D zone, although I think Alain Vigneault has helped him a little bit more. I talked about confidence with a few players. Yup, he's another one that totally doesn't even know what the word confidence is anymore because he doesn't have any. And I think it's time for a fresh start for him. I'm at that point. I don't know if I'm at that point yet with Rhys. I don't know if I'm at that point yet with Al Horford. Although I would lean towards it because of finances, but not in terms of the player. I think that there is a way to utilize him if they do it properly. I'm that way with Sidney Jones. I'm like, hey, I think he needs a fresh start, or I don't even know if he can really play. With Shane Gostisbehere, I think it's time to get out of here, get something new, go to a new city. The pressure won't be the same unless you go to a Toronto Maple Leafs or a Canadian market that's absolutely absurd like we are with the Philadelphia Eagles with their hockey team. Believe it or not, there are plenty of markets that do feel that way about their squad. But I just think he needs a reset. I don't think he stinks by any means. He just needs a new atmosphere, a new city, a new team, a new coach. He just needs it all. Although I did say Alain Vigneault has helped him in the D zone more so than what he was doing with Dave Haxtell at times. Refresh. I think he needs a refresh, but frustrating, no doubt. I mean, if you saw what he was doing that first year, sniping goalies, joining the rush, the power play, creating plays, shifty, the way he stick-handled the puck. It was beautiful stuff. And you see little spurts of it here and there. Like he'll give you that against Edmonton. And then maybe a game he's off, another game he's off, and then bang, he gives it to you against the Dallas Stars. And you see a beautiful move skating from end to end behind the goalie, behind Carter Hart's net, and then maybe at the blue line he does a little shimmy, he enters the zone, he throws the sauce somewhere and creates opportunities. Like you do see it. But then there's so many times as well where it's you cover your face thinking, how can you possibly make that mistake? We did talk about this topic on 97.3 ESPN last week, and someone texted into the text board Carter Hart on the road. So we specifically went Carter Hart on the road, and this is where I have a problem. You're talking about a 21-year-old netminder who's getting thrown into the NHL. There's going to be learning curves. Just like Andre Dillard, there's going to be learning curves. You can't just expect Carter Hart to walk in and just be some dominating player that never has mistakes. He's going to have to learn a different type of energy going to a different building. He had a bad home-road split, just like the 76ers. But ultimately, Carter Hart's going to be fine. You can see what type of talent he has. You can see that he is so focused, so dialed in. You see these mini documentaries or behind-the-scenes conversations, maybe not so much documentaries, but he tells a story about his mental preparation as a goalie, which is absurd, by the way. I mean, these people, the way that they have to mentally prepare for games, it's on another level, and that's why growing up in the hockey locker rooms all the time, you kind of laugh at the goalie like, oh, he's got to be a weirdo. I mean, if you're a goalie, you're a weirdo, right? So the way they prepare for things, it's like no other, and he has that right mentality when it comes to these games, so he's learning on the road. Cannot put him in that category because I know, I'm not even guessing or hoping or thinking about it. I know that he can be an elite netminder in this league, and he will be in this league. So for his, first real run at it, to be mad at him on the road, I can't get to that level. And some would say Voracek. He had some weird relationships with the fan base. He goes back and forth at times and rips people on Twitter, and he just has a funky relationship with the fan base, and I think that has happened ever since he signed that contract. So here's my list. I'll give you my list here. My top 5. Coming in at number 5 is Al Horford. I just think with what we expected this 76ers team to be, and I had hoped that it would work. Like, I remember the day that it happened where Jimmy Butler was traded to Miami. They got Josh Richardson and they signed Al Horford. I called a couple of my buddies like, damn, I think we got something here. Because at the time, I saw what happened against the Raptors, and once Embiid left the floor, I thought they needed another 5 so they can slide in and it wouldn't be a big deal. And with hindsight, it obviously hasn't worked to the way that we expected it to. I would say Al Horford is just the contract as a whole, very frustrating, no doubt. Number 4, Derek Barnett. I expected him to be something way better. I thought that he could be a defensive end that could literally change the ways. And I know people tie Brandon Graham's slow start to Derek Barnett at times, but two totally different styles, right? With Derek Barnett, it is about the sacks. With Brandon Graham, he does a little bit more. Also more of a vocal leader when it comes to the locker room, so he adds another element to his game. But in the beginning, he was getting destroyed, no doubt, when it comes to his play and what he has brought here to that point. But Derek Barnett, number 4. Number 3, Reese Hoskins, because he can totally smash the baseball, but as I stated, when it comes to being lost at the plate, it really is an understatement. It seems like he actually forgot how to play baseball. I mean, it's to that point when it comes to swinging the baseball bat, so I hope he says, bro, shut the hell up after he hits 7 grand slams this season in the 60-game stint. That would be phenomenal. I'll take that any day of the week. But Reese is number 3. Ghost is number 2 for me, because what he was that rookie year could change the Flyers franchise when it comes to the defensive end. Nowadays, that two-way type of player, offensive-minded player, you can totally utilize that. If you had that long-term, wow. But, I mean, I'm thinking an Erik Karlsson 2.0 type player. Not the same exactly. Erik Karlsson is disgusting in terms of him being good. Like, that's a good thing. But that type of offensive style, a Tony DeAngelo in New York, that type of player, long term. But I don't sense that that's here. And number 1 is Ben Simmons. Elite. Missing that jump shot puts him out of the elite category from an overall basketball standpoint. And without that, he's got a big hole in his game. No doubt about it. People talk about he doesn't need the jump shot, and you're right. In terms of staying in the NBA and making a living, he doesn't need it. He can be an all-star. He doesn't need it. But if he wants to be the superstar that we all talk about, he needs it. He does need it. But that doesn't mean he can't win without Ben Simmons, because if you have a roster constructed around Ben Simmons who's not going to shoot, I think that you can still win because he provides you enough defense, because he gives you other elements, and those other elements are still phenomenal when it comes to relating it with the rest of the league. So you can still win, but if he wants to be that type of player, yeah. So it's frustrating because shooting a basketball makes him top 5. Top 5. When he starts maturing and growing and getting in that age bracket that I discussed, that turns players into dominating the league. Like, this is how hard it is, and I'll end on this. LeBron James won that title in that age range I always give, 27 to 33. He won his first one. He had to join Miami. And in reality, he did. He had to join Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. Kevin Durant, I also talk about that age range. He won. He had to join the Warriors, okay? He had to join the Warriors. That's how hard it is to win. He had to join those type of teams, both of them, to get that title. So to put this pressure on a 23-year-old Ben Simmons to do it right now, think about what it has taken the greats to go out and win. And just put that in perspective. Thank you so much for listening. Once again, this episode of Sports Talk with Broads is sponsored by Orbit Energy and Power. With over 20 years of experience, Orbit is home to your solar experts. Their solar program helps eliminate your electric bill completely. They provide water purification systems, backup energy services, and more. So I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear the people that frustrate you the most. You can comment down below on YouTube, of course, and if you're listening to this on Apple Podcast, you can use the review system to leave a comment. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time.